Hi, welcome to another episode of Hilti Live. My name is Dean, I'm a product manager here at Hilti, and today's episode is all about the wonderful world of angle grinders. We have, as usual with these episodes, we have a team of experts waiting on hand should you have any questions as we go along. So please feel free to pop any questions you have in the chat. I'll try and cover as much as I can in the 10 to 15 minutes that we have with you today. We're going to focus predominantly on our cordless angle grinders. We do have a range in Hilti of your traditional corded angle grinders. So please do reach out if that is of interest to you. The fundamentals of angle grinders will apply whether it's cordless or corded. So please don't worry if you're in the corded world of angle grinders. Most of the things that I'll speak about today relate to both types of products. But we're going to have a look, as I say, at the cordless grinders, the three tools that we have in our portfolio, and we're going to have a look specifically at two that are quite different. We're going to have a look at the tools in action. We'll talk about the different discs and the applications that you can use. And as I mentioned, pop any questions you have in the chat and we'll answer them as best we can. You'll notice today that we're kind of in the metal world when we're having a look at these angle grinders. So we're going to do some cleaning, some polishing of steel. We're going to do some cuts. You'll notice we have some flap discs, some cutting discs. Angle grinders are universal in their nature. They will work with metal, with concrete, with mineral. For the purposes of today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at metal, but don't forget that you can use things like diamond cup wheels on an angle grinder as well, should you be working with concrete or mineral materials. So let's get started with the range of the portfolio we have here in Hilti, and I'm going to start you off with the AG4. So this is our angle grinder that is predominantly made for our customers working in steel and metal trades. So by that we mean fabrication, workshops, if I'm cleaning out welds, if I am doing general metal fabrication. This is more than likely going to be the cordless tool for me. Reason for that is the features of the tool. We have a speed dial. Speed dial is important when I'm grinding off mild or stainless steel, if I need to reduce the speed, if it's a more delicate grind that I'm doing, especially with things like flap or fiber discs. So I can control the speed with a speed dial. I also have a nice slim grip because chances are I'm using this tool for a longer period of time than if I was just doing some general purpose cutting, for example. Last but not least, it's an off and on switch as mentioned. It's speed dial, but it's also a slim grip. It's a battery tool, as all the cordless tools are. We have a spark guard at the bottom. We have our covered vent also at the bottom of the tool as well. So the AG4S, predominantly for our metal fabrication customers, you could say the S stands for steel. And we'll have a look at that tool in a few minutes' time. Then we have the AG5. If you have a cordless angle grinder from Hilti today and you work on site, chances are this is the angle grinder that you have. It's one of our most popular tools. This has your traditional deadman switch on it, which the AG4 doesn't. Because if I'm in a workshop, I don't really want to be pulling in a trigger for extensive periods of time. That can get tiresome on the hands. That's why we have the slim grip and the off and on switch on that tool. This is your traditional deadman switch. It's a 2-operation trigger. You push the bottom part in, you pull the trigger in. That's going to operate the disc, has a fast disc brake. You'll see this is a slightly more chunky, aggressive looking angle grinder. And this is very much in the building construction world. So we're on site, we're doing some cuts, we're doing some grinding. We're going to use the AG5. Then we have our latest and greatest tool we are really quite proud of. This is the AG6D. So you have the 4, the 5 and the 6. We've got this with just a standard cutting disc on there. You'll notice this is a much slimmer grip versus the AG5. They're both in the same world. These are site, building construction angle grinders. As I mentioned, work with metal and concrete. But there's some really, really cool and unique and quite exciting features on this tool, which I will go through with you in a few minutes. Apart from that, the more general features of the tool, you can see we've got the spark guard on the bottom, like all our angle grinders. Much slimmer grip. We've got the vents at the bottom. This has a fast disc brake on it as well. And the main differentiation, apart from that, between these two, is the power and the performance of this tool. So this is going to get you around 20 to 30% more power, more speed of cut than the AG5. So if the best-in-class performance of the grinders is important to you, or the safety features, then this is going to be the angle grinder that you choose. If you're happy with the performance of the AG5, if you like your more traditional grip and deadman trigger, then this tool will still remain as well. And then, as mentioned, if you're working with steel and metal for longer periods of time, potentially the AG4 would be the tool for you. But the trick with any Hilti products, as we've probably mentioned on episodes in the past, is try them. Demonstrate, ask one of our account managers to come out and see you, come and get your demonstrations, use the tools and see which one is better for you. We're going to try and do a mini version of that in this episode today for you. So I'm going to start with the latest. I'm going to start with the AG6. Very, very classic application is something like cutting some rebar. So we've got a piece of rebar here. It's another size, 12 maybe mil, 14 mil. And we've just got a standard 1 milli cutting disc on the angle grinder. We've got our guard on the angle grinder as well, which is used to direct the sparks in certain, away from the body, away from the material. So I'll do a couple of cuts on the rebar so you can see the tool in action. You'll get a feel for it, hopefully. So off and on switch on the tool, and then once I've used it, I'm going to mention a couple of these really exciting safety features that we have. So I'm just going to switch the tool on. That's just going to operate now as normal. So you should hopefully, I hope the idea is we could give you a little idea of the performance of that tool. It's quite an aggressive application. You know, cutting a piece of rebar is not, it's not a super quick application. But yeah, we've just done a couple of cuts there with a 1 milli disc with the AG6. Hopefully give you an idea of its performance. Now, I mentioned a couple of these features. I won't keep you waiting any longer. So the AG6 is on our Nuron platform, which all our angle grinders are on the same battery technology, so you can interchange the batteries, no problem. There's no real difference in the power or the performance, regardless of the batteries that you choose. The only difference, excuse me, is the number of cuts. So the battery reach, as we would say. How long that battery is going to last before you need to change it. The bigger capacity of the battery, the more cuts you'll get, and vice versa. So the safety features. I'm going to show you something that we call active torque control. Now, when you're grinding, as you saw, you may have seen little moments when we're doing the cut where the tool might potentially snag maybe. The nature of cutting with an angle grinder is that can happen. We have had a technology in our tools for a long time, our drilling tools, called active torque control, which is going to cut the tool out when the tool senses an over rotation. And that's designed to protect the user, right? So I'm going to try and show you that now with the angle grinder, something that we now call 3D, active torque control. We've took that technology, we've put it in the angle grinder, and it's going to I'll hopefully show you how that works. So I'm going to start the tool, and we're going to simulate the tool snagging a little bit on some material. So when it senses that rotation, the tool's going to cut out. I can't do anything with that tool now until I turn it off and turn it back on again. So we'll do it again. And again, the tool's going to cut out. That's built into the tool. That's called 3D ATC, active torque control. Something that we're really passionate and quite proud about to protect the user when they're using this tool. Now, there's another really, really cool feature of the AG6, the latest angle grinder, that I'd like to show you, and it's related to this thing here that we call the deadman switch. This is a two-stage operation. I'll show you on the existing grinder. So I'm going to pull the trigger, and I'm going to... That's how you operate the tool. So once again, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to pull in. And then when I take my hand off the trigger, it's about 3.5 seconds, something like that, for the disc to stop. There's a disc brake built inside the tool. Now, I mentioned the slim grip on the AG4. We've got a nice compact slim grip on the AG6. You'll notice a bit of a chunky tool, this, with the dead man trigger on there. A lot of customers prefer that in an angle grinder. We also have some customers who prefer slightly slimmer grip, hence why we'll operate with both the grinders in the portfolio. The dead man switch, the dead man trigger on this tool is built into the grip. It's a technology called SensTech. So I will show you what happens when I take my hand off the tool. So there's sensors built inside the tool which will detect when I'm not in control. When I've taken my hand off the trigger, I have to turn that tool off and then on again to operate. So I'll show you again. And it really is, I mean, in the name, but it really is quite sensitive. You'll see I have gloves on. Believe it or not, this will work if I'm using welder's gauntlets, for example, or really thick gloves in the winter. And again, it's really quite sensitive. You'll see when I move my hand around the trigger, what happens. So it really does sense when I'm not in control of that tool. So those are two really, really exciting features that we're super proud about. ATC, active torque control, that's going to stop that rotation when it snags, and SensTech, the dead man trigger, built in to the grip. So no longer do I need to keep my fingers pulled when I'm using it. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the AG6. That's our most powerful cordless angle grinder that we have in Hilti. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning the AG4. I'd like to show you this tool as well, because this really does have its perfect place in the metal fabrication world. If I'm in a workshop and do I want to get rid of my corded grinders? Maybe I do. As battery technology improves and gets better, we will see, you know, more and more a shift in the angle grinder market towards cordless technology. We've already seen that play out over the last few years. It will only improve. So if I have a workshop and I want a cordless grinder, chances are the AG4 will be the one for me. Now, I want to show you a quick application here. We've got a flap disc. So a flap disc is in the world of flap discs, fiber discs, cleaning out welds, grinding off welds if I've got or cleaning rusty, mild steel, cleaning, you know, something that's going on show or display, architectural steel. There's lots and lots of different types of metal fabrication that you would use. We've got ourselves a steel I-beam. It's pretty rusty. We've got a flap disc, and you'll see, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have speed dial on this tool. Quite important if I'm doing something with, say, stainless steel, where I want to do some buffing or some polishing. I might knock the speed down on here. So we just have a trigger, a speed dial at the bottom, which you can adjust from 1 to 6. And that essentially just controls the RPMs. So let's have a look at this tool in action. Always remember your goggles or glasses when you're using angle grinders, guys. And we have our spark protection on there as well. So our, which as mentioned can be adjusted accordingly. So steel, flap disc, and we're going to switch that on with our off and on switch. We'll probably keep the speed quite high for this, just so you can see it in action. And if I do the same kind of cuts again, but I drop the speed down, maybe I want to polish this out now, make it look a bit nicer. Now the trick when you're working with steel like this, with an angle grinder where it's used for intense periods of time, shall we say, is controlling that speed, controlling the angle of the angle grinder as well, and the right type of disc. There may be questions, that we get, or there are always questions that we get around which type of disc do I use, which grit. Anyone that's experienced with using angle grinders that will know that you have different grits of disc, which will give you different finishes, different types of cuts. So that is the AG4 and the AG6. And as I say, the AG5 will remain. We'll keep that in our offering for our customers that prefer the kind of more mechanical dead man trigger that's on that tool. And as I say at the very beginning, corded angle grinders, still very much a part of the Hilti world. We have 3 different corded angle grinders that we offer. This one here is our 13S, it's our standard corded angle grinder. So if you're in a workshop and you still need that corded technology, then we still have the offering for you. Couple of final points for you. Something called Nuron. You may have seen on previous episodes, we've spoken about this. I know I certainly have when I've done these things before. All the tools are on the Nuron platform. There's 4 or 5 different batteries that we offer on Nuron, and that is our technology moving forward, that all our tools will operate on the one battery. Now in theory, with an angle grinder, you're probably going to have a compact battery on there. So you're going to probably have a 55 or an 85 battery. Please don't worry, the size of the battery is the only thing you need to consider in terms of its weight, its ergonomics, because as I mentioned at the beginning, it's the number of cuts that you get is the difference. So what we tend to see with the angle grinders is sticking with a more compact battery, because you want the lightness, you want the ergonomics, maybe you're doing some cuts in some strange positions, things like that. But should you have the bigger batteries, they will absolutely work fine. Just bear in mind the weight and the balance of the tool. Last but not least, fleet management with Hilti. So all our tools are available on our fleet management program. If you are interested in that, please let us know, drop some comments, we'll reach out to you. Happy to answer any questions. That is essentially your way of converting your tools over to Hilti, to take your entire tool park of tools on one platform, on one battery, and for one monthly fee. So again, if that is of interest to you, Hilti's fleet management, please do reach out to us. Maybe I'd wrap up in saying that there are some myths associated with angle grinders. These tools are designed to spin very, very fast. Yeah? So please also make sure, or always make sure, that you're operating safely, that you have your guards, that you're using your PPE correctly. If you are using a corded tool, that the cords are away from you, no trip hazards. Again, a reason why maybe battery tools are for you. But if used correctly and you know what you're doing, hopefully you've seen today that these tools are perfectly safe and are very, very useful for lots and lots of different applications in steel, stainless steel, concrete, brickwork, and cordless angle grinders is something that we do get quite a few questions about, so hopefully today has been quite useful for you. So the AG4, steel and metal fabrication, AG5 and AG6 are go-to angle grinders for site work. AG5 if you prefer your more mechanical, a bulkier grip with your traditional dead man trigger. AG6 if you want that extra performance from an angle grinder, as I mentioned, 20 to 30% more performance, or you like and appreciate the innovation that's built into this tool. So the active torque control, the SensTech technology that comes with the AG6. That's all from me on this episode of Hilti Live. I've hopefully covered some of the basics of angle grinders. If you have any further questions after the episode, get in touch with us in the usual way. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about the offering that we have. And we'll see you on another episode of Hilti Live in the near future. Thanks for watching.